Lesson 1-3. This lesson is on multiplying and dividing real numbers. What we're looking at are positive and negative integers when multiplying and dividing. So we have some rules that we need to revisit. When you have a positive number and a positive number, such as 3 times 5, or 3 divided by 5, or whichever, they're both positive. So a positive and a positive make a positive answer. Okay, if you have a positive or a negative or in reverse, basically if you have one of each, let's say the 3 in this case was positive and the 5 in this case was negative. So a positive and a negative will give you a negative. And again, if these were in reverse, you would still get a negative answer. Okay, what if you have a negative and a negative, like negative 3 times negative 5? Well, a negative and a negative give you a positive. All right, so those are the rules that we need to make sure we follow. And these are the same rules that work for division as well. All right, so let's start with something like this. What if we have 6 times negative 3? We're going to get negative 18 because a positive and a negative equal a negative. If we have negative 18 divided by positive 2, we're going to get negative 9 because 2 goes into 18 9 times, and I have a negative and a positive equal a negative. All right, how about something like this? 1/2 times negative 10. Well, remember, what fractions only mean to divide. That's all it is. So 2 goes into 10 5 times. So now I have 1 times negative 5. 5 times 1 is 5. A positive and a negative equal a negative. So the answer is negative 5. If we had negative 48 over negative 4, we're going to divide this out. Remember, a top number always goes inside the box. So we're going to do 4 goes into 48. You'll notice I'm leaving the signs alone for right now. Okay, we know that 4 goes into 48 12 times. So my answer is 12. Now let's look at our signs. A negative and a negative make a positive. And I do not need to write the little positive. It's fine. Okay, what if we have something like negative 3 times 2 over 3? All right. Well, I can make this into a fraction just by simply putting it over 1. So negative 3 over 1 times 2 over 3. And remember, when multiplying fractions, you do not need to have common denominators. The denominators can be different. And all you do is just multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is going to give me negative 6 on top, carrying that negative sign along with it because a negative and a positive equal a negative. And then 1 times 3 is going to give me 3. Now I can reduce this by saying that negative 6 over 3, 3 goes into 6 2 times, a positive and a negative equal a negative. So negative 2 being your final answer. Okay, 35 divided by negative 5. All right, 5 goes into 35 7 times. A positive and a negative equal a negative. Okay, I have negative 11 times negative 4. 11 times 4 is going to give me 44. A negative and a negative equal a positive. And again, you don't need to put the positive sign. All right, when you're dividing fractions, you always want to make sure that you take the reciprocal or the flipped fraction side. So if we have something like this, we need to flip the fraction upside down so we can complete the operation. So if I had 1/2 divided by negative 5/6, at this point, if you want, you can just drop the parentheses. You really don't need them. So I'm going to write it over here, negative 1/2 divided by negative 5/6. The reciprocal is always changed on the second one. I'm going to put recip. Okay, you need to flip that guy. In order to do this operation correctly, you always flip the second fraction. The first one stays. So again, first one stays. And I'm going to flip that second fraction upside down. And it doesn't matter where you put the negative sign. When you take the reciprocal of the second fraction, you change the sign. It's no longer division, it's now multiplication. And then you just multiply straight across. Negative 1 times negative 6 gives you positive 6. 2 times 5 gives you 10. Okay, can I reduce this fraction down? I sure can, to 3/5. So positive 3/5 would be your answer. What if we had something like 8/9 divided by negative 2 2/3? All right, what do we do when we have a mixed fraction like this? Well, you turn it into an improper fraction. So the first fraction is going to stay 8/9, because you remember that one always stays the same. All right, now before I go flipping and everything all at one step, I'm going to break it into several steps. So I'm going to keep the division sign for right now. Let's turn this into an improper fraction. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 6 plus 2 gives me 8. And the denominator stays the same. And this was a negative, so the negative comes with the new fraction. So now instead of writing 2 2/3, I just write 8/3. Okay, now I can flip this second fraction and change my sign. So I'm going to keep the first one, change the sign to multiplication, and flip this guy upside down. All right, hopefully that didn't go too fast for you. Now we just multiply straight across. Well, first let's go ahead and take care of our sign. A positive and a negative is going to give me a negative answer. So 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. 9 times 8 is going to give me 72. And I know I can reduce this down to 1/3. All right, here we go. Let's try this one. We have negative 3/4 divided by negative 9. All right, well, this isn't a fraction, but that's okay. We can put it over 1 and have it be a fraction now. Again, the first one stays. Change the sign from division to multiplication. Keep this symbol, the negative. And instead of 1/9, we're going to flip it to, instead of 9/1, we're going to flip it to